Why would Allah put a condition for proving zina? And it is important to get zina out of society, and we know the damage that it does. But why would Allah put a condition to punish the people who commit this great crime that can't be met?
AlMaghrib Institute presents Q&A with Kamal al-Mekki.
And one of the things that you mentioned was that the gradations of the sin of zina.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That was one thing I didn't understand. Like, you mentioned it, and the thought was like, okay, fine, like shirk, worst thing that you could do, right? For your soul.
Oh, I see what
right?
you're saying. Okay.
And then there was like murder, right? You're literally killing a person, right? But then it was like it was zina, right? And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, then you got like alcohol and gambling and all that like that's later. And I'm thinking to myself like, why isn't alcohol like before zina, considering the intoxication of an individual could lead people to all of these sins?
Yeah.
Right? Considering alcohol is the, like, you know, just on the road.
Yeah.
How many deaths occur because of alcohol?
Yeah.
Right? Like.
So.
Yeah.
And Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, when he was the Khalifa, he gave a khutbah and he was telling people that alcohol is the mother of all sins, because then he gives a hypothetical story in the khutbah about a woman, a woman of ill repute, who trapped this righteous man in her home, in her tent, and then she says, I'll give you three options. You either commit zina with me, or you kill this child, or you consume this alcohol, or I'll ruin your reputation. People see you walking out of here. So he chose, he's not going to murder a baby, and he's not going to, commit zina with it. So he drank the alcohol, and of course lost his mind, killed the baby, and committed zina. So he was saying it's the mother of all sins. And this is a maw'idah to show you that, when you become intoxicated, you don't have, the mechanism to make right decisions and what
is a maw'idah?
A maw'idah is like an admonition.
Okay.
You're just giving an admonition and using a hypothetical.
Okay.
But if someone, let's say, were to make that argument in a very serious way, like I can give you arguments about, with zina, the scholars say something beautiful. They say zina takes away adamiyyat al-adami, yani the human side of the human being. You look at the animal kingdom, they first of all have seasons, or if the female is ovulating, the male approaches her. Otherwise, with only the exception of bonobo apes, not even other chimps, but just bonobo apes, and they say dolphins also. All right? But beyond that, there's not a single animal on the planet where if the female is pregnant, she will allow a male to approach her. But a human can be pregnant, and a male will approach her, and she will allow him to approach her. And that's why they said it takes away the human side of the human being. Okay? But I got something for you. If somebody said that to me, I'll tell them, yeah, you can consume alcohol and still murder someone. So, Yeah. But because alcohol, even though it can lead you to other things, but you are doing one thing to yourself, then as a result of it, you go and do things to others. But zina, akhi, when you look at it and you study it, it has this lack of shame. It has, an animalistic side to it. It has lack of control to a degree. There, the alcohol made you lose control, right?
Here, you're sober.
Here, you're sober and you have no control like an animal. And I don't mean to make anyone feel bad if they've, in the past, Allah is always forgiving. I always remind people, even in the class, that I'm not here to make someone feel dirty for a mistake they've made in the past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most, He'll forgive shirk. So don't tell me He won't forgive sin.
So, assuming you're not dead.
Right, as long as you sincerely repent, right?
Imam Ahmad has this statement where he says, I don't know of a sin other than after killing that is worse than zina. So after shirk and after killing, he doesn't know of anything that's worse than zina. And Ibn al-Qayyim, he comments and he says, and I'm amazed at how perceptive he was, Ibn al-Qayyim. He said, zina destroys the institutions of the world. He's like, zina just comes and destroys every institution. Yeah. And he's incredibly right, because you look at, when you talk about zina, I would argue that it harms people more than drunk driving.
Okay.
Because again, if you're talking about 1 out of every 2 children in the United States is born out of wedlock, that's half the population.
So zina causes misery while living.
Misery while living? Absolutely. When you talk about an epidemic of loneliness, when you look at nursing homes, when you look at the breakdown of family in Western society, what is one of the, if not the major factor? It is zina, right? It is the breakup of the family. It is the breakup of marital institutions. It is the breakup of homes. It is the breakup of extended families. It's all through a culture of zina.
And it's part of the maqasid al-sharia, what's
The objectives of Islamic law,
right?
Higher objectives, yeah.
To preserve lineage, to preserve the family. And the scholars say the punishment for zina is so severe to offset that severe urge in people also. Like, why is it that if someone is married and commits zina, if he so chooses, he can be put to death? Now, and remember the wording I used here. If he chooses, he'll be put to death. Because historically, anyone who's
In
ever
an
been
Islamic state.
in an Islamic state, don't go to your best friend again and But and the reason I say that is that it's not possible through the four witnesses to prove zina, which is another thing that's kind of weird. Like, why would Allah put conditions for proving zina in court that are impossible to meet? And the scholars said something really beautiful. They
Are
said,
they impossible? Couldn't it be that 4 people all happen to watch
It's a question of has it happened?
penetration?
what are
You meaning you have to be so shameless for it to be...
Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until his time, there's not been a single case of zina proven in court through the four witnesses. And from his time until our time, it has never happened, because they have to be 4 people who happen to be there. Okay?
Who witnessed it?
And if I'm sitting here and 3 of my righteous friends are all upstanding righteous, that's also the other thing.
How do you establish that?
Huh?
That's the point.
That's it's like the moon sighting. And that's why when people say, you can't make judgments, we do that. We know the righteous people in the community.
Okay.
We've seen outwardly. That's all you're concerned with. Outwardly, I know a righteous person.
So if somebody has a DUI on the record, they're not righteous.
They're out until they repent publicly, right? So it has to be that, like, if I have friends over for burgers and the 3 righteous guys and I'm the 4th, and I see my neighbor committing zina, let's say, and if I call them over, the Maliki said doesn't qualify. You can't call them over. And you can't say, well, where are you right now? Okay, make a U-turn, come to my house quickly. Because they say the guy could have changed, the woman could have moved, whatever. But the point is that we have the 4 of us, righteous, upstanding individuals, happen to be there, not calling each other. And then we have to look. The scholars specifically say that you can't go to court and say, Your Honor, we saw him doing what a man does with his wife. Your Honor, they were both unclothed and they were moving. La, they have to see something very explicit, which I cannot say explicitly, but I do say
Why
it.
can't you say it? Because it's in the hadith.
I can't, but I say it in another way. I say they have to say, Your Honor, we saw Pennsylvania in Virginia. Like that. They have to use these words like that.
Okay.
Right? Because it's a matter of life and death. Hinting is not going to be acceptable in court.
Yeah.
So what are the odds they're going to be at 4 righteous guys at that angle, and it's never going to happen. So they say, then realistic. And by the way, there's some other things to deter them. If it did happen, that's why the course is called confidential. They're not supposed to take it to court, because the default is to conceal your brother's fault, not to embarrass him.
Yeah.
So even if it happened, they'll be like, we'll be spoken about in the fiqh books and our names will go down in history.
Let me ask you this though. Even in this circumstance.
What about video, HD?
Yeah.
Well, videos, like
But-
video surveillance.
But wait. I didn't even finish that point. Further deterrence from if this impossible scenario happened, further deterrence. If they disagree on a shirt color, skin tone, they get whipped.
Yeah.
If one of them backs out, they get whipped, which happened to some
Yeah,
companions.
that's what I was gonna say. Is just like now it becomes now everything, all the effort is gonna go towards discrediting the witness.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about taking it to trial, who is the target? The target is like O.J. Simpson trial, clear example, right? The cop who found the glove. Like everything went towards
Yeah,
discrediting him,
absolutely.
right? And that's any case in any, like they always attack the witness.
So I always tell people,
Yeah.
if I have video, okay, if I have clear HD video that zooms in and shows all the angles, I take it, I go to the court and tell Your Honor, this guy committed zina. The judge is like, do you have 4 righteous, upstanding witnesses? I'll be like, I have 20, including yourself, sir. Please watch Exhibit A. And I play the DVD. I'm like, here, you all saw it. So video evidence is not acceptable. Why? Because we have a rule under which the judge operates, and it's really beautiful. All right, and the rule is idra'ul hudud bishubuhat. You try to push away I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to find a way to push the punishment away, and I'm trying to find doubt to push away, like the shubuhat, doubtful issues. So when the judges presented the evidence,
So it's kind of like without a shadow of a doubt.
yes, and this is not a murder case. So
Right.
in a zina case, when the judge is shown evidence,
Yeah.
his job is to try to find a way to discredit that evidence,
Okay.
because we don't want your blood. And that's why in a Muslim court, in this kind of case, you don't even need a lawyer. The judge is your lawyer. He's on your side. He's trying to get you off.
Okay, so the judge is not. So that's the key difference is that. So within an Islamic system, there are no lawyers.
No, there are and there can be.
Okay.
But in this case, I'm just maybe hyperbolizing a little bit. But
Yeah.
if you walked in without a lawyer, you're all right, because the judge is going to try to set you free.
So the judge's job is to not convict.
Yeah, there's no quota of blood he has to meet, or the quota of whips that he has to meet per month.
What about this idea of the judge and law enforcement is to uphold and enforce the law?
And that's, there's nothing un-Islamic about that. But there's something more beautiful in the Muslim courtroom. I know this.
Well, I mean that's an American concept.
Yeah, but
But
there's
even
nothing.
the Prophet ﷺ, when people would come to him,
Yeah.
he would try to
Yeah.
find a way out for them.
Okay.
And by the way, the rest of that
Only
hadith
ones-
also was يعني ادرأوا الحدود فيما بينكم فما بلغني من حد فقد وجب. Whatever reaches me of a prescribed punishment, I don't have a choice. يعني if someone comes to me with stealing, I don't have a choice and say pay a fine. I don't have a choice here, you know. So yeah, in the sense, yeah, upholding the law is not an issue.
No, but even with the Prophet ﷺ, he would implement it when it's been clear that there is no like other leeway. He would still say, you know, maybe you just kissed her.
Oh.
Maybe you just did this. Maybe you just did
The
that.
hadith of Ma'az ibn Malik, I would tell the students, count how many chances he was given.
This is a
Because
companion who basically came and confessed zina to the Prophet
he
ﷺ.
was
Yeah.
married and committed zina.
He turned away. He's like, "No, I didn't hear this."
Oh, how many times? Like, he turned away from him 3-4 times, and he said, you know, perhaps you just kissed him. A grown man, he knows what he did.
Yeah.
Maybe you just kissed, maybe you just this, maybe you this, that. يعني أفيك جنون, are you insane? Then he asked his people, كيف ماعز فيكم, is he insane? And they said he is from the righteous. So many. Then they had the companions smell his breath to make sure he's not intoxicated. I mean, so many excuses. But I always tell people, you know, people get upset. Oh, in Islam you guys stone people. No, we don't stone people. But if someone committed zina and they have two choices: to repent, or they can choose to get it expiated here so they don't have to deal with it on the day of judgment. So that's why anytime in history someone got stoned, they came and insisted to get stoned.
They what's it called? They testified against themselves.
Yeah, because you can't prove it.
Yeah.
We already established it's impossible to prove it.
Yeah.
So the only way it ever happened in history is if the person absolutely insisted. And the judge would still say, Ya akhi, go make umrah, go repent. Ya akhi, why do we don't want your blood? And if they insist, they have that right. You don't have the right to come 1,400 years later and say, well, it's his choice. It's not in your business, you know. But the point I was making earlier was that the question is a logical question. Why would Allah put a condition for proving zina? And it is important to get zina out of society, and we know the damage that it does. But why would Allah put a condition to punish the people who commit this great crime that can't be met? And the scholar said something really beautiful for those, again, going back to scandals and slander. They said, as much as zina is a serious and a wicked sin, and as much as the society will benefit if we remove it and punish those who commit zina, Allah made your reputation higher, so He made it impossible to accuse you of it. That's really beautiful. Wallah, it's really beautiful. And that's why I was actually teaching this class in one city one time, where there was a girl in that class who hated this other sister, and she would openly tell people she committed zina with a person. And that sister was very innocent. And she came to me during break crying, and she told me, this sister is openly going around telling people I committed zina. And I confronted her, and she's saying, I'm just destroying your relationship. But she said, every time you mention these points, I turn to look at her, and she's just looking down in shame. Her head is down on the ground. So of course, after she said that to me, after that, I just started hammering those points, you know. But it's powerful.
Wait, so this girl was basically telling people that she committed.
That her friend, that girl that she hates committed zina.
Oh.
But
So she's slandering another girl.
Yeah. And every time I spoke about slander, she said I would look at her, the one who slandered me, and she's just
Okay.
can't put her head up. She's ashamed because she didn't know how serious it was.
Okay.
And that's why,
She thought it was just mean girl gossip talk.
yeah, and that's why, and then even though some madhahib differed here, but it's clear to see which one was right, where the person who repents, meaning who accused a chaste woman, and then he repented, the punishment of whipping never leaves. But the other punishments leave,
Yeah.
meaning we don't call him a fasiq, we accept your testimony in court, but the punishment for whipping will never leave. Because if that were the case, then I could destroy, let's say, my ex-business partner by saying his wife does this when he's not around, blah, blah, blah. And then when the judge says, did you say that? Your Honor, I really did say that, but I repent now. And I testify that he's a righteous man. Yeah, but after what? You know,
Damage is
the
done.
PR rule, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
like to unpaint that picture is 10
Yeah.
times more effort now.
Yeah.
And then I get off scot-free. That's why they said the whipping, nothing removes that. You have to, because the damage is done. And so look at these deterrents here, and look at like the value of people's reputation.